if you're struggling with Hydra, stick around. We're going to simplify things. Hey guys, finally he sleeps here, and tonight we're going to talk about Hydra in Raid Shadow Legends. This is going to be a two-part video, so make sure you check out the link to the other half in the description below. Now, this clan boss is known for giving some people major problems, and with the new Hydra class rewards being so beneficial in the quest for mythical champions, it's a great time to get on board with putting up bigger numbers against Hydra. First though, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube. It's easy and free, and it does make a difference here on the channel, so thank you for hitting that button. The Hydra is a four-headed clan boss that can present you with some serious problems if you're not prepared for the best possible strategy to take on the heads. That's what part one is all about. This video, it's the heads. The first thing you need to know is that there are actually 6 different heads, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. The rotations of the heads changes each week. Now also remember, if you chop off a head, it will get replaced with one of the missing 2 heads, usually. We'll come back to that. So you really have to know all 6 heads, their abilities, and their weaknesses in order to do well in Hydra. All heads have a few common skills, like any bosses. They all have damage caps. So hits based on max HP cannot exceed 10% of the head's max HP. So you have any of your big damage dealers that have a big hit that's based on the enemy's max HP. It's limited. There's a governor on it, so where you can only do so much damage. Same way with HP burn. Single tick damage cannot exceed 20,000 HP for HP burn. Damage from reflected damage, the War Master mastery, or even the Giant Slayer mastery cannot exceed 50,000 per hit. All the heads are immune to stun, freeze, sleep, block active skills, block passive skills, fear, true fear, petrification, and provoke. But provoke does come into play for the head of Decay, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. All the heads are immune to HP exchange effects, HP balancing, cooldown increasing, and turn meter reduction effects. You can use decreased speed debuffs, however. So that's all of them together. That's kind of the overview. So now let's take a look at each head specifically. Up first, we have the Head of Torment. The Head of Torment's main ability is countering with True Fear if you hit it while not under a veil. True Fear will stick no matter what your resistance is, and even if you have a block debuffs buff present. He's also nearly immune to poison. He only takes 10% of the damage from poison debuffs, and his A1 also lays down a Fear or True Fear debuff on any enemy, and then attacks all enemies under Fear or True Fear. Now, the easiest way to counterattack his counter is to just make sure you have a veil on as often as possible. Cleansers are going to help here as well to clean off the True Fear and Fear. And if you can't deflect them, if you're not under a veil attack, you're going to have some way to deal with all of those debuffs. And I hate the Fear debuffs because they have a very high likelihood of just rendering your turn void, where you don't get to do anything. Now, another option is to bring someone with a passive that counters True Fear, such as Inquisitor Shamail. His passive states that whenever an ally receives a Fear or True Fear debuff from an enemy, this skill will instantly remove the debuff and fill the ally's turn meter by 15%. Now, besides Inquisitor, Rector Drath, Duchess, Tahanarak, Truath, and Doom Priest will all be great champions against the Hydra head. Now, moving on to the second head is the Head of Suffering. This one has an A1 AoE that places weakened debuffs that cannot be resisted. His A2 puts on ally protection on the rest of the heads and a reflect damage on itself. So this head is basically kind of a support tank for the Hydra. It also has a unique debuff that it lays down on one champion with its A3 called Pain Link. Now that channels a mirrored 15% of all of the damage that it receives to the champion with its pain link. Now the easiest way to deal with Head of Suffering is to have strengthen buffs on all your champs as often as possible, because the strengthen will block the placement of weaken debuffs from the Head of Suffering's A1. High resistance and decreased accuracy, as well as hex debuffs, are also going to help against this head. Suggested champions to deal with him include Yugo with her block buffs and decreased defense, Lydia the Death Siren, and MYTHLAX Lifebane for both strengthen and hex. Up next, we have the Head of Mischief. This one could be one of the biggest troublemakers because it steals your buffs and then spreads them to the other Hydra heads. That means if you're set up with heavy protection, you can lose it and have it used against you in the blink of an eye. Now what's worse is this head has a 75% chance of redirecting any attack on it to another head unless this head is under a hex debuff. Now, this could be seriously problematic if this head has devoured one of your champs and you're attempting to smack it around a little bit to get him to spit it out, and all of your hits are being deflected to other heads. Best counter is to just have someone who can lay down hex debuffs on your team, such as MYTHLAX or Thylesia. Timing your buffs will also help. If you have someone with block damage, for example, if you're not timing it correctly, those could be stolen and then spread throughout the heads, leaving you unable to do anything until they time out. The Head of Blight is the fourth head on the Hydra. Now, personally, other than the Head of Mischief, the Head of Blight is a major pain in the ass. His A1 is an AoE that places 3 5% poisons and a 75% chance of leech debuffs. His A2 is another AoE good for 5% poison for 3 turns, and then a poison exploder for anyone who also has a leech debuff. A3 is the problem skill though. It places a poison cloud buff on all Hydra heads for 2 turns. Now this buff blocks damage from poison and turns all hits on those heads into weak hits. The easiest way to deal with this champion is with block buffs. This will keep the poison cloud from landing. HP burn will also negate the poison cloud, but only if it is on and active before the poison cloud goes into play. So if one of the heads has the poison cloud buff on and you throw the HP burn on them, it's not going to get rid of the poison cloud. It has to be there before the poison cloud is applied. Any champion that can land skills on weak hits is also going to help here. HP burn and block buffs champions are your best bet though. Yugo, Geomancer, and Artak are all fantastic counters to the Head of Blight. Number 5, Head of Wrath. This head has a vengeance buff that grows with each attack. Now once it hits level 15, he buffs himself and launches an insane AoE that boosts damage by 300%. His A2 places Provoke, so block debuff champs and a Cleanser will be great counters. Champions that can deflect damage or champions that can decrease AoE damage will be great against the Head of Wrath. Anyone with great protection, like shields, block damage, or revive, are going to help against this one as well. Helicath, Christ, Yugo, Mother Cybele, Brogni, and even Emic Trunkheart will all be great for your lineups against this head. Now the last one is the Head of Decay. He brings turn meter boost for all of the other heads, full cleanses and life barriers, which is kind of like a shield, but for the Hydra. He's basically the medic of the Hydra. Now he also destroys your team's max HP every time you heal. Every time you heal, it decreases your max HP by 15% of the value of the heal, up to 75% of your max HP for that champion. Countering him is pretty easy though. If he's under a Provoke debuff, he's basically harmless. To deal with him, you just need high accuracy and Provoke on at all times. Otherwise, he's going to be an issue. Anyone who can reliably lay down Provoke is going to help here. Coronar, Warchief, Jizzo, Soulless, and Skull Lord will all do well. There was recently a free AoE Provoke champ that popped up with a promo code in the game as part of the Winter Yuletide Festival. And that one, don't forget, Jizzcard, it's Jizzcard. We're going to call him Jizzcard, the Sigiled, as an option because he does have that AoE provoke. That's the heads. Now that you know what you're dealing with, in the second video, we're going to talk about the best tactics to use to bring in strong numbers for your squad. Hope that helps. If it did, make sure you subscribe here at YouTube so you never miss when a video goes live. Appreciate you guys supporting the channel. I'm finally He Sleeps. As long as you keep tuning in, I'll keep making videos. Thanks for watching. If you haven't noticed, my YouTube channel has expanded. Subscribe here for Raid Shadow Legends content, but make sure you check out my other channels as well for EA Sports FC, Everything Automotive over at Gearheads, and visit Cringeworthy for a few laughs. Subscribe links are right over there.